Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be heard, of course, and she has been the one who's been toying with the motion to vacate Speaker Johnson. Just need one. The Matt Gaetz of this current situation seems to be MTG. And she's saying that the $95 billion of foreign aid that was passed individually for Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific is a sellout of the country. And a lot of this from the outside looking in looks like drama, drama, drama. We have our principles. We know what we want to be funded, but it gets into the House with such a narrow majority and becomes very complicated to see the forest for the trees. I'm going to bring on our guest who's hopefully going to straighten some of this out for us. Jason Chaffetz is a Fox News contributor, and I also very much encourage you to check out his book, The Puppeteers. He's the former chairman of the House Oversight Committee, and you can learn more at jasoninthehouse.com. Jason, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here to talk about this today.
Hey, thanks, Annie. Always good to be with you.
Thank you. I want to give you the opportunity to react just in general on the aid passage that took place this weekend. Mike Johnson managed to get the job done. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, very frustrated with the manner that they went through and then the passage of some of this spending. Is this just drama on the outside looking in? Is this how the sausage is made? What do you think?
It is how the sausage is made, but I don't like the outcome. I mean, There are some very important things to deal with and push back on Russia and China and Iran. You know, and you can be supportive of Israel and Ukraine, but I think the other thing is securing our own border and securing the United States of America. So if you have that array of choices that are before you, I believe securing our border, it should be the number one priority. Everything else is secondary. If you don't protect your border, you don't have a country. You're going to lose this country. And so you have to protect that border. So in the final package, when you couple them all together, if it doesn't have border security, I wouldn't vote for that. And I got a lot of respect for people who support the funding for Israel and support Ukraine and do all that. But I really think you have to also understand that Democrats will not come to the table. Democrats are the ones that will not fund securing our border. They do not want policies in place that lock down that border. And so I wish that Marjorie Taylor Greene would spend as much time talking about Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats as she did about Republicans. And I think that would go over a lot better than the way it's been going over so far.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We're speaking with former Congressman Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor and author. I don't understand how we can't be primarily, as an entire Republican Party, focused primarily on the border and force the hand of the people who are in the minority, even if it's a teeny tiny minority or it's a huge minority, if you can have such a thing. I've talked to current congressmen on this show, and they say, you know, we passed H.R. 2. They've sent it over. Chuck Schumer doesn't want to do anything about it. How does it work in the House when you've got an Israel funding bill or Ukraine or Indo-Pacific, whatever it is? How do you make it so that you reemphasize border security as a priority over these other things that are, yes, still important?
Well, they did that, and the House has passed important legislation. And let's remember, it was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that issued nearly 100 executive orders undoing what Donald Trump had done. And so, again, I think 100% of the blame on the lack of security at our border, the reason we're not impeaching Secretary Mayorkas, the reason the border is not locked down is 100% because of the Democrats. That is their position, and they are lockstep. You find one that's willing to break ranks, you're not going to find them. That is core to their position. And so, you know, I don't think Speaker Johnson is the problem. We had a sort of unofficial rule when I was in the House, when we were in the majority, and that is if the majority of the majority want to have something brought up, then you bring it up for a vote. And if you lose that vote, you lose that vote. But, you know, you try as best you can to make the case. What I find about Marjorie Taylor Greene is she's failing at her job. She is not persuasive. You know, our founders set it up such, Annie, that they want you to be as persuasive as possible. No one person gets their thing. You can rant and rave and post all you want on Instagram, but if you're not able to persuade others to the position that you see, you're going to ultimately be a failure. And that's the way I see what she's doing so far.
We're speaking with former Congressman Jason Chaffetz. When you're saying be persuasive, I'm very interested in this. Are you say probably maybe it's both, but are you talking about persuading her coworkers there in Congress? Are you talking about at this point now just persuading voters to make sure that we get a bigger majority so that we have a little more breathing room? Because it does feel very much so like some of the people who turn into influencers once they get into politics. It doesn't feel so much like they're trying to move the ball down the court. They just want to make sure that they're in the spotlight while the drama is going on. And I don't really know where MTG is on that on any particular issue. I got to pay close attention each and every time. But where do you want to see the persuasion happening?
With other members of Congress. Look, when I was in Congress, Barack Obama was the president almost the entire time. I passed 7 substantive bills. You can't do it unless you're able to persuade some Democrats to come along with you. I look, the whole of the Republicans has got to continue to beat the drum and remind people every single step of the way. The reason our border isn't secure is because of Democrats. And again, our founders didn't envision that you had to have the best Instagram following. They wanted you to have to fight for something and persuade other members of Congress to go your way. That's what it's ultimately about. That's why there are 435 members and there's 100 senators. It's not if you wanted a glide path to just get what one person's done, you'd have a different form of government. So you can rail. Look, I'm not saying where I take issue with her is to suggest that this is Speaker Johnson's fault. It's not. That is where the body is as a whole, and it's a problem. And Republicans, if they want to do better, they have to go out and win elections.
Yeah, and I think that Speaker Johnson, being somebody who we all had to study when he took the speakership because he wasn't as widely known as maybe Kevin McCarthy had been or others. It's hard to look at him and see how he could possibly make any decision that won't offend somebody on one side or the other always to, enter into that motion to vacate. So how is it that the Republican majority does go through these final months where they still either A, have the majority, or B, before they lose it? How do they function this way if it's always, if you offend one person, they're going to be out and then we're going to have to go through that circus again?
Well, I thought Kevin McCarthy did all of us a real disservice when he agreed to allow the rules package to have the motion to vacate at just one member. I tend to think it should be bigger. I mean, I called that out at the time. I think that should be maybe 10% of the majority, make it like 24 members. If 24 members come together and they want to, have another vote on who the speaker is, that's great. But one member, I mean, that seems extreme. And I think until they change that, they're going to continue to have this problem. Remember, Democrats can pull this up at any time that they want as well. Republicans, the last few months here of this election, it really is about messaging. Nothing, I think, outside of what just passed of any substance will pass the body. It's going to be about the next election. And so you better be good on your messaging and getting out the vote if you actually want to persuade people and be able to have a mandate to come in and change things. And I wish, again, I think I would have voted no on the final package because unless it had border security as the number one item, I'm a no.
Right.
And I think they should have held the line, in my opinion. But I don't blame Speaker Johnson for that.
Okay. Jason Chaffetz with us right now. Your book is The Puppeteers, the people who control America. And it becomes even more interesting as we get closer to this election. You can kind of tell when someone's getting a little close to being over the target and the people who get all ruffled up. We've watched President Trump today. He spoke after the first half day of the trial and his hush money trial in Manhattan. But, of course, those legal issues are all over the place, and it's kind of hard to campaign and message right now outside of Donald Trump. But it does seem like the biggest threat that Donald Trump would be, should he get reelected, is to the people who control America. It seems as though he is a threat to that. I wanted to know what you think about the lawfare that's taking place right now and what a second presidency, a second term of his presidency might mean for the bureaucracy that's in place.
Well, look, the voters got to see Donald Trump for 4 years, and all these things that the Democrats said about, oh, he'd create all these world wars and the economy would be real bad, and he'd do this, that, and he'd spy on his opponents. Well, that's what the Democrats have essentially done. I mean, that's what we got with Joe Biden. The whole promise of Joe Biden is just been a lie. It's just been fiction. He was going to unite the country. So I think the Democrats are going to pay a political price for the lawfare that they've been engaged with. I think they've overreached. I don't think the average person walking down the streets of St. Louis can tell you why in the world Donald Trump is involved in a trial right now. Like, what did he do that was so egregious and bad that he might go to jail? I mean, nobody can even tell you. The prosecution has a hard time telling you what that is. So people understand that it's an overreach. It's politically motivated. And why is it coming up now? Just happens to be 5-6 months before an election? Yeah, right. What a coincidence. These things happened like so many years ago, before the 2016 election. Now it's coming up? Come on.
Yeah, I've said this before, but I don't think we're as stupid as they need us to be in a lot of these scenarios. Last question before we let you go. We're speaking with Jason Chaffetz. I encourage you to check out his book, The Puppeteers. It's a really interesting read, and you'll learn a lot. But I wonder, you've been very close to, how the sausage is made, to use that former reference, in Washington, D.C., and I feel like when Donald Trump is the president, you're getting Donald Trump's administration. When Joe Biden's been the president, I don't feel like he's in command. There's a lot of, I guess, har ways that you could explain that he doesn't seem to be in charge of his faculties or the country. But are those puppeteers, do they have a bigger job in the Biden administration than maybe they've ever had before?
Well, I think you're seeing why they like him to be there, because all he really wants to do is get his next scoop of ice cream. And so they can run amok, and, the book talks about people like the money managers and Larry Fink and Susan Rice and these people behind the scenes that are able to do things that maybe they wouldn't be able to otherwise do. And so when you start to understand how they use money and not-for-profits and unions and Randy Weingarten at the teachers union, how they're able to get their way, there's a whole lot of reason why there's support for Joe Biden, even though he's not a really good negotiator. He has a hard time negotiating his way up a set of stairs.
That's true.
So
that's facts.
And so, but they like him there because he is this puppet, and the guy can't debate. He won't even go on the Super Bowl with a free opportunity to talk to 100 million people. He can't do it. He just simply cannot do the job. So I think the country has a clear choice, even though he's all being wrapped up in the election. I still don't think that. I think America sees that. And I like the way you phrased that, Annie. I think that was a really good way to phrase that.
We're not as stupid as they need us to be. Maybe close on some days. I don't know, but I just don't. I have faith in America, and I pray about it a lot. So I need some resolve there. Jason Chaffetz, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Annie.
We'll talk to you again. Bye-bye. Go check out his book, The Puppeteers, The People Who Control America.